Welcome to What's the Word Wednesday. Today I'm going to take a temperature again. As I mentioned last week, I'm going to start using What's the Word Wednesday to start taking the temperature on a weekly basis of what's coming up, because we all are in anticipation of things happening, and it's just interesting to know what that looks like through the cards. So instead of doing my tarot read after my astrology on Stargazing Sunday, which I do every Sunday, I'm just going to keep it strictly to the astrology, and I will do some tarot imagery discussion. So, you know, if Neptune is in an aspect to Jupiter, for example, I will talk about the Hanged Man and the Wheel of Fortune and how those things might be interacting with each other. So, but to make it not too long, I'm going to just mainly talk about astrology. And what I'm going to do is on Wednesdays, I'll do a read for the coming 7 days and kind of get a temperature of what's going on. So last week, I just laid out 12 cards for each season, basically, to kind of get an idea and a feel for what the season's going to look like. And it looked pretty interesting. Like in the next, there were a lot of major arcana in the next couple seasons, like for fall especially. So today, however, I'm not going to do that every week because it can get pretty boring. So I'm looking at this book. I've had this book for a while, and as you can see, it's full of tabs. I've got all kinds of tabs marked in here. It's called, oh, and it's backwards, so I apologize, but it's called Holistic Tarot, and it is by Benny Bell Wynn, who seems to be, she's a lawyer, and she's also a whiz at tarot and astrology. So she's got lots of good information out there if you are interested in lots of text reading. She's got tarot spread samples and all kinds of things in there. So I'm going to do the horseshoe spread today, which is very much like the pyramid spread that I do that I have been doing after the astrology reads. It's just, instead of doing it in the shape of a pyramid, it's in the shape of more of a V. It's called a V spread or V formation or a horseshoe spread, because you can make it look more like a horseshoe. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, share my desk here. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and I've got an oracle deck here also. This is my, here, I'll do it this way, the Mantra Oracle. And they've got some really interesting mantras in there. If you're into meditation and you like to do mantras during your meditation, there's a lot of really good mantras. But I'm going to pick it, use it, you know, strictly as an oracle today. Energies. Okay. Okay. That one's popping out at me. And then I'm going to shuffle my deck. And this particular deck I've used before. It's called Tarot of Traditions. Chair of Traditions. And it has some very nice art on it. It looks very much like the Rider-Waite, but the art is a little more, what's the word? Just a little nicer, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I'm going to go ahead and create my horseshoe spread. All right. So I'm just going to lay them out, not seen yet, and I will turn them over. All right, and I'm going to move my mouse off the screen. It's not very tarot-like to see all that technology, is it? Okay, so here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. All right, so let's look at our oracle card first. Okay. Prana Prana Sushumna Hari. Letting go. Okay, so this is all about letting go of something. And let me find in the book that particular one. Let's see, it's in, I think, yeah, it's in order, alphabetical order. So 92. Okay. Translation. Prana is the life force allowing the air to pass through our lungs. Apana is the elimination function, namely the expiration and the action of the waste eliminating organs. Sushumna, and I apologize if I'm not saying that right, is the main channel through which the energy from the other nadis or channels. Okay. Ida and Pingala, which I'm not sure where that's coming from, but let me say, intertwine so that the Kundalini can circulate from the base of the spine to the top of the skull. Har, which is part of the chant, is the divine manifested. Hari is the divine acted. As soon as my life force is perfectly balanced with my capacity for elimination, the divine circulates in me and acts through me. Okay? So again, it's prana, apana, sushumna, hari, hari, ha, hari, ha, hari, ha, hari. If I'm saying that right, I apologize if I'm not. Okay, so let's get into a little more of the spiritual side of what this actually means. Have you taken the time to breathe deeply? And I just did. Did you hear me breathe? It was kind of like a sigh, yeah. To completely empty the air from your stomach and lungs. Days can sometimes go by so fast that it's only at night that we realize we haven't respected any of our elimination functions. The prana is then exhausted because we absorbed only small quantities of air in our rib cage without ever fully rejecting the carbon dioxide and working our apana. And there are many other ways of accumulating energetic and organic waste. It's not rare for people to refrain from going to the bathroom simply to gain a few seconds more of conversation. Yeah, or being on the computer or in the middle of some sort of task, right? Fundamental needs seem to vanish because we're distracted. And it's only when our bladder hurts much later that we realize we cannot wait any longer. Likewise, when we don't take the time to feel an uncomfortable emotion, we ruin our chances of letting it dissolve. So let me read that again. So we're transferring into the idea of not just air and other types of waste from our body, but this is spiritual in nature. It says, likewise, when we don't take the time to feel an uncomfortable emotion, we ruin our chances of letting it dissolve. It will suddenly be trapped and hidden behind avoidance tactics, like grabbing your phone, eating, smoking, drinking, looking at a screen, working, moving. This card requires you to take the time to eliminate. Stop accumulating thoughts like clothes bursting out of your drawers. Breathe out and feel the void. It is this access to the nothingness that will allow you to meet the fullness of yourself. Stop everything you're doing, sit down, and slow down your breathing. Be aware of the engaged muscles in your body, your floating ribs tightening like an accordion, the elevated motion of your diaphragm, your stomach deflating, and your lungs contracting. If the mind starts wanting to explain, rationalize, or dissect, pay attention to your breathing in the emptiness. Don't let mundane stories drag you along. It is through the exploration of emptiness that you will access the now, this eternal serenity in between thoughts. Try loneliness, silence, and fasting. And remember this quote from Albert Camus, I think it's how you say it. It might be Camus, but in the depths of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer. Okay, and it says in practice, sit cross-legged and rise your hands to your shoulders, palms turned forward. Squeeze your pinky and ring fingers together and your index and middle fingers together and spread your thumbs like the famous Vulcan statue in Star Trek. Breathe in deeply and chant 3 times as you breathe out without catching your breath. 7 minutes minimum. And again, it's prana apana, sushumna hari, hari ha hari ha hari ha hari. Interesting. So what is the point of all this? Letting go. And I feel like it's almost directly talking to me because I am very guilty of just constant consumption of information and not, I don't know if it's letting go or, yeah. I mean, I have to go through periods where I get rid of some stuff, you know, or like just kind of purge some stuff. So anyway, yeah, very interesting. It's almost kind of like a death card situation, right? You know, purging, changing over, and that kind of thing. All right, so let's get into the tarot cards here and see what they have to give us as far as the details of this read. And I have them backwards, so let me go back. I've already opened this up, but let me go back, start here with number 1. This is the catalyst, okay? The catalyst or the hidden influence, and we've got the sun. So the sun it's your vitality. It's like your internal soul, your vitality, who you are, how you shine. So this very much, this purging has to do with your vitality. In the near future, let's open all these up right here and look at them because we're looking at past, present, and future, like the next 3 months roughly. All right, so remember this is kind of like looking for the next 3 months to see just how things are for us. And in the past, we've got the Page of Pentacles. So it's like the introduction of something new, like you're manifesting something new in your life, okay? And then we move on to the present, which is the Four of Cups. And right now, it's you're looking at 3 cups. We're looking at 3 cups. And cups are emotional and also intuitive. So if you're working on your intuition and trying to improve that area of your life, you know, through meditation, etc., I would say, you know, maybe the Page of Pentacles is telling us that, yes, some of us are starting to work on meditation or work on improving our connection to the divine and to our higher self. And when we do that, something is not seen. It's like we're not seeing something that's being offered. We're focused here, but we're not seeing it. And maybe it's because of what our oracle guidance is telling us, and that is our plate is so full that we're not able to see anything else that's being offered. So there may be some purging in order to see what is being offered to us. And then in the future, we also have more cups. So this is very, very good. It's very, very nice, auspicious kind of thing to see. And that is with the Nine of Cups, you know, our wish is coming true. And again, we've got cups, so it's like our intuitive abilities really improve. So I'd say that this is really good advice as far as, you know, getting all of that information out of your head, purging this information, this excess that we've, you know, got into, especially myself. I have to say I've done that quite a bit. And make room. Really, I mean, what do you do when you empty house, when you empty your closets? You're making room for the new, right? And that's, I'm sure you've heard that before. So that's, I think, what we need to do here is we need to empty our minds to make room for that connection with the divine, the connection with higher self, in order to get clearer picture of in direction and connection. Okay, so that's past, present, future. Okay, so let's look at, I see these cards over here as advice. So that's the way I would read them pyramid spread, but I'm reading the horseshoe spread from this Benny Bell Wynn book of Holistic Tarot, and this is more about the setting and then the environment. And this is our hopes and fears, which is pulling a little bit in from the Celtic cross, because we have those represented in the Celtic cross spread. So if we look at our setting and environment, it's Six of Cups. So wherever you've set yourself up, if you haven't already done so, put yourself in a place where there's kindness around you, because the Six of Cups is about kindness. All right, it's about giving to others. So be kind to others. Make sure others are being kind to you. The environment is in the setting is really important if this is your goal, to connect and to receive the information you want to receive. So make sure your environment is a kind environment, especially where you decide you're going to meditate, and that very much looks like a meditating card. Okay, so and the other card here, this is about your hopes and fears. Okay, so Five of Cups is a cup of disappointment. So I would say that some of us, and me included, probably get really frustrated not feeling like meditation is working, or not feeling like you're getting anything. So, this is a card disappointment. We've spilled these three, but we have our back to the two that are still there. So we're not seeing the benefits. We're not seeing the good parts. We're only seeing what we're not accomplishing, or what we don't, the bad parts. So make sure you're looking at your situation objectively, and that you're not missing out on what's good about, even when things don't work, there's something good to be learned from that situation, right? So when you sit and say, this didn't work, evaluating it and figuring out why it didn't work is something good to get out of the situation. It's the silver lining. So make sure, you're doing that, and you're not just saying, oh, that didn't work, I'm never going to do it again, or, oh, that didn't work, bummer, and then go off and start surfing the internet. Sounds like something I would do. Anyway, so you gotta, stop and give yourself time to reflect on, okay, what didn't work. So that's what I think this is coming out and saying. And then finally, with our outcome, let's turn this around. We've got the Ten of Wands. So, that's a difficult card. There's challenge there. There's burden there. So, for many of us, it may not be easy. It's not something that we've done very much in our life, and we're trying to do something like this. But I also want to draw a couple cards, because so in my mind, I'm thinking there are some of us like to think that sitting and meditating, as mentioned in this mantra oracle book, where you sit and you say the mantras and things, maybe that's the way to do it, or the only way to do it. And me being a Taurus moon, I really love experiential things. I really love to tune into the sensory. And so for me, sometimes I can get into a meditative state just by doing something repetitive around the house, like mowing our big monotonous yard, or raking leaves, or if the room's big enough, just the vacuuming it, although that doesn't take as long. But you can get into a meditative state by doing something that's kind of repetitive around your house as well. So and maybe that's what we're seeing here with the Page of Cups. It's like a surprising way to create that meditative state for yourself. Some of us might need more of the sensory aspects, and not be so much just in the head. It may be harder, and maybe starting out that way might be better, to do your meditative thing. And then the Eight of Swords here, yeah. So being, it's hard, yeah. So this woman, she's surrounded by swords, and swords are thinking. So it's about blocking out thoughts, and that's why sometimes you need to block out the thoughts in order to get that connection. You need to block out the thoughts to get the connection, and sometimes it can be really hard to block out the thoughts. That's why, for me, doing something that's almost lizard brains coming to mind. But it's something that where it's just monotonous, and in your lizard brain or your second brain or whatever you call that part of your, where something is kind of so ingrained. Like sometimes you drive to work and you don't remember where you don't. I mean, you didn't even think when you were driving. It was just like taken over by that brain, because the pathways have been laid. The pathway has been laid so long ago that you don't even have to think about it. So anyway, I'm just saying, when you get into that state where you're not even have to think about what you're doing and you're just kind of doing it, sometimes that can also be a helpful way to get into this meditative situation, at least for beginners and people who, like me, who don't have a lot of experience in meditating. Okay, well, I didn't know this was going to be all about meditation, but I did pick the Mantra Oracle, and so I guess Spirit was guiding me. And I think because of everything that's going on in the world right now, that I think, maybe we won't have a way to connect with each other, maybe for a short while. Maybe we won't be able to get on the internet. Maybe we won't be able to get on our phone for a short while. And so to have that connection, or to feel like everything's okay, to just sit and meditate and connect with Source, connect with the divine, connect with higher self, will help get you in a space where you're more settled and feel better. And I think that's why this is coming up right now. It's because it's something that's going to be very useful for us soon. And yeah. I don't think I needed to say anything else about it. I think that's a good way to end it. So I hope you enjoyed this horseshoe spread read, which is very much like the pyramid read, about learning or working on meditation. And I hope you all have a really good rest of the week and into next week. I've got Stargazing Sunday on Sunday. Hope you'll join me for that. I'm going to go over the aspects for the week, the planetary aspects, and talk about how they're represented with the tarot imagery again. And we'll just keep doing that and see where that leads us. So, okay, well, take care, and I will see you next time.